Hey guys, I'm Sam Bafa. I'm the founder of a company called tinycloud, and I'm here to talk to you guys about cognitive sovereignty. So kind of thinking about going from biological to our digital senses, the case for cognitive sovereignty. If there's one thing I want you to remember from my talk, it's this. Cognitive sovereignty won't be given to you. You have to take it. It should probably define sovereignty, and sovereignty is the ability to say yes, no, or not now over something that belongs to you, right? If you have that power, you're sovereign over it. And that actually has a lot to do with our brains and the thoughts that come to us. So kind of what we're going to talk about is the fact that you're a cyborg. Really look at, do we own our minds? And to take a look at the future. So first, you're a cyborg. I want you guys to recognize that. A lot of you probably already do. A way to think about that is to think about what happened if you lose your phone. By show of hands, how many of you guys have lost your phone for more than a day? All right. I also have. When you lose your phone, it's actually very challenging. You could imagine being blind for the next hour, right? Maybe if you were out walking, how debilitating that would be. And the same happens when we lose our phones, right? Basically, our tools let us maneuver in our society, right? Our society is pretty complex. Even being here in Buenos Aires, I had a friend lose their phone, and they basically had to go buy a new phone, just go buy one from the store. They had to go find cash without their phone. They had to maneuver through society, right? They had to go back to their hotel, figure out where they're going again, back and forth 3 times to find their destination. And it's not because, my friend's pretty competent, but it's because we're still used to our tools. And one of the tools I want to talk about is the exocortex, right? So we have, in our brain, we have our neocortex, we have our limbic brain, and our reptilian brain. Our neocortex is kind of what makes us different than other animals. It's where our really highest level reasoning comes from. And I'm here to talk about our exocortex, which is the scaffolding of tools we build to extend our cognition beyond our skulls. The exocortex is a lot of things, right? It could be like a to-do list that you have written down. It could be a calendar. Maybe some of you have a second brain in Notion or Obsidian. It could be in Twitter bookmarks or algorithmic feeds. It's this external tooling that we use to influence how we think. So do we own our minds, right? If the exocortex is a part of our mind, a part of ourselves, a part of our cybernetic being, do we own it? So when I originally was really thinking about this talk and why I started talking about this, because I was really thinking about wearables. I've thought about wearables very deeply. And wearables are really an extension of our senses, right? Visions, I love flying drones. Drones are I can now see from way up high, right? We have a hearing, hearing aids. We have different devices to hear. We have other senses that we augment with technology, right? Like GPS and location help us to determine where we are in physical space. Our sense of time can be determined by calendars and clocks. So these digital senses are our senses. And you're sovereign over your physical senses and your mind, but what about the digital ones and our exocortex? Without sovereignty, you're going to get rugged. So there is something that happened last year where Notion users were blocked from Notion users in Russia were blocked from accessing Notion. Right? Notion is super useful, especially if you're a PhD student, and maybe keeping your exocortex there, right? All the things you're researching, your thoughts, your ideas, and you can just get rugged, right? This is kind of a cybernetic stroke, right? If you have a stroke, parts of your brain become inaccessible. This is basically somebody using their sovereignty over you to cause harm, right? And maybe they don't see it as causing harm, but it is causing harm to your cybernetic being. And what about your algorithmic feed, right? I'm sure some of you have meditated, some of you have observed the thoughts that come to your mind. Here is a bunch of thoughts that come to your mind that you don't control, right? And it's really sometimes hard to be present when scrolling the feed. And that's because companies want to take you from your neocortex to your reptilian brain. It's easier to control you. It's easier to make it so that you're more predictable if you're acting from your primal self. Both corporations and markets drive you down from your neocortex to your reptilian brain. This is what that looks like, right? If it's more primal, you're more predictable and you're more profitable, right? This guy is a lot of people's ideal customer. He is not acting from his highest self, right? I'm sure his highest self would be like, yeah, maybe he has goals, maybe he has things he wants to do, but actually, the parts of your brain that are responsible for just your basic animal behavior, right? The way we can domesticate other animals is by controlling when they eat, their reward systems, just these really basic things. And it's really in the interest of other entities to control you here, right? And it's actually through your exocortex, right? If you don't control your exocortex, that's the mechanism in which this drive to push you from your neocortex to your limbic system, that's where it happens. And so, yeah, we can see it today. It's not just like a meme. We can actually see it in the data. So this is the growth of Math 2. It's like actually a remedial college class. So like 1 in 8 college students entering UC San Diego are now taking this. And this started since 2020, right? So this is when Instagram's Reels was released. I think about this a lot because I have a 17-year-old sister. I really think about how social media affects her and her brain and her future. And I see how she struggles compared to the rest of my siblings. And here you can see the number of people in this remedial class are exploding, right? They actually are not able to, there's something happening. There's something harmful happening to the people who use social media, right? Just want to talk about the future, and the future is coming. First, brain tech is already here. We could look at like EEG research and the possibilities that happen from reading the brain, right? People are able to improve their senses, including smell and sight, just from EEGs. We're able to predict people's thoughts from scanning outside of their brain, right? And then when you look into the brain, people already have BCIs, right? There's Neuralink. There's some BCI experiments that are helping people to recover from injuries like strokes. And so the BCIs are already here. And we already have technology that looks like BCIs, right? An example of this is an AI pendant. AI pendant lets you capture audio and listen to it. And people are really sensitive to the nature of the invasion, the privacy invasion. But imagine if someone's able to capture the audio stream in their ears, right, with the BCI. Their visual stream, what they see, they're able to capture and digitize that, right? So this technology is coming, and it's really important to actually own it, right? You don't necessarily want someone to be a node in some kind of network. You want them to be sovereign if you're engaging and interacting with them. So right now there's an air gap between our exocortex and our brain, but that's going to zero, right? My exocortex, this is my main tool to access it, also my laptop here. The distance is actually shrinking, right? And with wearables, now it's maybe on my physical person, right? I usually wear like some AI glasses. I like them for hearing, for like listening to music. I take photos with them. They're now right on my head, right? It's just the distance is closing. And so, oops. Which path do we choose, right? So this is from Vitalik's DIAC 1 year later paper. Where do we go? And I think it's really important to imagine a positive future. This is one of my favorite videos. I share it with all my friends. Where you look and where you set your attention really defines where you go, right? This kid, he's just like trying not to hit the tree, and what does he do? He hits the tree. This is all he could think about. He's like, I really don't want to hit the tree, right? This is all he could think about. And so, oops. So we're actually in the same position, right? Where are we going? Do we want to we really don't want to go to all this doom and gloom, right? Let's actually think about the future we want, right? Let's actually think about, look, there's all these great places we could go that would be fun, right? Let's bring that into our reality. So let's talk about a better future. So imagine a better world, right? You're wearing a capture device that automatically respects the privacy of other people, right? Like that seems like pretty obvious. And imagine having an agent that processes what you're experiencing and doing things on your behalf. It does research for you. It communicates with other people for you, right? It's kind of doing these things for you. You don't have to worry about some secret incentive trying to manipulate you, right? And imagine scrolling a feed before you go to sleep that's optimized for your highest good and flourishing. For me, I would love to scroll a feed that kind of recaps some of the things I talked about. Someone told me about this interesting paper. Hey, here's actually some nuggets from that paper, right? I'd love to see a feed that tells me about the things I'm going to do tomorrow and reminds me of some of the stuff that I should think about, right? And then I like to see some stuff that makes me be present and that brings me into gratitude. And then I want to feed that kind of gets a little boring, and then I kind of want to go to sleep, right? That's a really nice algorithmic arc for me. And so why can't I do that? Because I'm not digitally sovereign, right? This is actually a thing we want to solve. So what does a path look like where we have cognitive sovereignty? It looks like where you have digital sovereignty, right? If you can control your data, like you control your crypto by using your cryptographic keys, this is actually the way there. This is what we do actually at tinycloud. We build digital sovereignty infrastructure. We build cognitive sovereignty tools, and our building blocks are identity, verifiable data, and access controls. This is so that you could think from your higher self, right? So you can shape your own thoughts, and so that you can be cognitively sovereign. And the reason it matters is because we need to be our best selves to be able to handle what's coming in the future, right? There's so many crises, right? The poly crisis and their challenges of tomorrow that we need to be competent and empowered to be able to handle. And we can't afford to be disempowered animals, right? Which is actually maybe what the market wants. So the fight is real for our sovereignty, our cognitive sovereignty. The stakes are your mind, and it's up to us to choose the technology and the ways we build, how we move forward. I want to thank you guys. You can find me at Sam G. Bafa on Twitter or Telegram. Yeah, thank you for your time.